All right, all right, all right. I know we're a minute or two early. We're just a little bit early. So we'll do that banter everybody does at the start of Zoom meetings and goes, hey, how's everybody doing? We're a little early, but I've been sitting in the waiting room waiting to start, and I'm too excited to wait any longer. So I thought I'd jump on here. I've been doing Christmas stuff all day. I don't know if you're following along online. I've been doing like ranking the 64 best Christmas songs. And then Todd Smith and I, my next door neighbor, have been having like a Santa Wars situation that we do every December. So it's been a lot of fun. I can't believe it's already December. I don't know about you, but this year, the back half has galloped. Like it's just galloped. And I'm so excited that so many people showed up tonight. I found out right before we started that we had 4,500 people sign up, and December is busy. So that is amazing that we had so many people go, yeah, I want to do this. Like I want 2024 to be a certain way. That gives me a lot of hope. You often hear the negative side of things. There's a lot of people watching from a lot of other countries right now, but in America, we have an election coming up next fall, and we're all kind of like, whoa, here we go. Like you hear a lot of negativity, but that so many people are like, no, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to lean into my goals is really, really fantastic. So let me say, I'm grateful you're here. I'm excited you're here, and we're going to jump in. It's going to be a really fun night. So welcome to JumpStart 24. This is your one-stop, action-packed guide to winning the new year before it's even begun. There are thousands of people who will be jumping into the new year tonight and tomorrow, because there's going to be a lot of people watching this replay. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I love seeing you guys say where you're from. I've seen some people be like, I'm in Cleveland, I'm in East Texas. So definitely check in where you're from, throw that in the comments. And to the point about the comments, the chat is really smart. I don't know other Zoom situations you go to, but our chat is really smart. What often happens, especially when we do like a VIP thing or the GGC, is I'll say one idea and then somebody will go, well, this idea worked for me. This idea worked for me. So keep an eye on the chat too, because there's a lot of smart people that are be checking in and throwing out other book recommendations, other tips they've worked on. You're amongst your people. So enjoy the chat as well. Big thank you to everyone who is joining us live and everyone who is watching the replay. First of all, I want to start by saying I'm proud of you. Why am I proud of you? Because nobody does this. Nobody does this. Most people, like most people on the planet, don't work on their New Year's resolutions until the first week of January. That's just what happens. Like most people wait until the very last second, or they don't have goals, they don't have resolutions. Do you have any friends like that? Have you ever felt sometimes like you're the weird resolution person in your friend group? Because you'll go, I've got some resolutions I wrote down, and your friend is like, what are you talking about? And you go, I've got a water goal. And they're like, who makes a goal for water? And you're like, oh, not me. That would be weird. Most people don't have resolutions. Most people don't have goals, and they certainly don't do something like this in the middle of a busy month. But there's a phrase that our team says a lot. There's a phrase that you and I are going to say a lot as we work together all year. And here's what we say. We're not most people. That's a phrase that we say over and over again. We're not most people. Like most people might do things a certain way, but we're not most people. And I'm always excited to meet someone else who's jumping into the year with both feet. And that's what you're doing. So who am I? I'm Jon Acuff. I'm a goal guy. I'm a late bloomer who discovered the power of goals in his mid-30s. And now I'm on a furious mission to create the accelerators that I wish I had in my 20s. So what's an accelerator? Because I use that word a lot. I think of an accelerator as a tool, skill, or resource that gets you further and faster than you ever dreamt was possible. So it's a tool, it's a skill, it's a resource that gets you further and faster than you ever dreamt was possible. And JumpStart 24 is one. Tonight is one. We're going to cover a ton tonight. If you've ever come to one of these with me, you know it's content rich. I don't know if you've ever signed up for something like this and you get there and it's 99% sales pitch and 1% content. You go, ooh. Like I remember my parents when we were young, we didn't have barely any money. My dad was a pastor. My mom was a dental hygienist. and they signed us up for a timeshare presentation in Florida for tickets to SeaWorld. And my brothers and I just sat in this sad kind of conference room and ate donuts for 6 hours while someone tried to sell a timeshare to my parents. But you know, that's not how we do things here, because we're not most people. There's going to be a ton of content. So if you're ready, I'd love to jump into what I think is one of the biggest, most important questions you need to deal with in 2024. Are you ready? Here's the question. How do I get to the next level? How do I get to the next level? That's the biggest question you need to deal with in 2024. Have you ever heard people talk about this elusive, like, next level? Sometimes they'll say things like, I've got to level up. Like, I've got to level up this part of my life. Or they'll compliment someone else and they'll say, she is on a different level. I heard people talk about the levels forever. And it's a really important planning question, because you're essentially saying, what's your plan to get to the next level? But no one was asking what I think is an even more important question. This question matters even more. What are the levels? What are the levels? Have you ever thought about that? I mean, martial arts has clear levels, right? Like, if you do karate or kenpo or jujitsu, there are clear levels. There are white belts and green belts and blue belts and eventually brown belts and black belts. The Boy Scouts have levels. You can work your way up to Eagle Scout. Even Delta Sky Miles has levels. They recently changed them and people went crazy. I'm platinum, by the way. I've never reached diamond. I'm always just platinum. But when it comes to goals, what are the levels? That question haunted me. It did. It was a question that really frustrated me. But last year, when I got really deliberate about my goals, I finally started to figure it out. You see, what I recognized was that every goal, no matter how different, no matter what the nature of it, has one thing in common. There's a single metric that is consistent in every single goal. It's measurable, it's specific, it's encouraging to watch it stack up. It's also incredibly simple. Can you guess what it is? Time. Time. No matter what goal you want to work on, it all comes down to one factor: how much time you invest in it. That's what it all comes down to: how much time you invest in it. Think about it. If you have a weight loss goal, you can measure pounds or clothing sizes, but that doesn't translate easily to your financial goal. I've never heard someone say, we paid off 11 pounds of financial debt. We paid that off. Or let's say your goal is to write a book. There's a lot of people watching tonight, watching the replay, and you have a goal to write a book. And you can measure pages written, you can measure word count, but that doesn't translate to your decluttering goal. If your goal is to declutter your garage, like, you can measure bags of junk, or you could declutter a bedroom and measure bags of clothing you've donated, but that doesn't translate to your goal to read more this year. The reason it's so hard to accomplish goals is that we reinvent the wheel every time we start a new goal in a new area of our lives. I started to notice people do that. They'd say, John, I'm having a really hard time with my financial goal. And they would have done great with a health goal, but they never translated it to the other areas of their lives. And I would meet people who were great at certain areas, but struggled in certain others. But what if there was a consistent thread that tied every goal together? What if there was a metric that's just been waiting for us to find it on our wrists and our phones and our microwaves and our clocks? There is. It's time. So I started studying how time applies to accomplishments. I was looking for patterns, frameworks, and clear categories that would make it easy for me and for you to stay motivated all year in our goals. And it took me hundreds of hours to figure it out. But when I did, it was so obvious. There are 5 success levels when it comes to goals. Here's what they are. I'm going to break them down one by one. The first level is rookie, and all it takes is a 10-minute investment. It's 10 minutes. When you spend 10 minutes on a new goal, congratulations, you're a rookie. Now, that might not sound like a lot. I know that's not like a sexy number. I get that. But do you know what are the hardest moments of a goal? The first 10 minutes. Now, the middle of a goal is really challenging too, of course, but those first 10 minutes, when you climb out of the stands and you step into the arena are difficult. If you do that, you're no longer just a spectator of life. You're a player. You're a rookie. So the first level is rookie. I see so many people coming in. You haven't missed a thing. I know sometimes I feel like I'm behind in these Zoom sessions. If I show up a couple of minutes after it started, no worries. We're just talking about that first success level. When you're a rookie and you've done 10 minutes, that's level 1. Now, what about level 2? Level 2 is student. That's 10 hours. When you've invested 10 hours into a goal, you're no longer a rookie. You're a student. You moved from wish into work. You've run or walked your first miles. You've written the first few pages of your book. You started the business. You've begun to stack up hours and even see some of those first buds of progress. Any parent who has taught a kid to drive knows there's a lot of difference between those first terrifying 10 minutes and those first 10 hours. Isn't it amazing how much better your son or your daughter will be after just 10 hours of focused effort? The same is true of you. When you're 10 hours deep into a goal, you're already experiencing a little bit of that magic that has happened, that momentum. So the first level, rookie, 10 minutes. Second level, student, 10 hours. Level 3 is scholar, 100 hours. At this level, you should expect friends and family members to start asking you some questions. This is the, what have you been doing level? This is when people start to get a little curious. This is where the progress is so obvious. It starts to glow a little bit. It's a little bit neon. People can't help but notice the difference. You're a scholar. Now, you don't know everything. Of course not. But you know infinitely more than someone who has never tried. Now, if that doesn't sound like a lot, if 100 hours doesn't sound like a lot of time to you, I'd like to remind you that you can get your private pilot license with 75 hours of flight time. 75 hours. You can fly a whole airplane thousands of feet in the air with just 75 hours of training. So don't tell me you can't accomplish massive goals as a scholar with 100 hours. Do you know who one of my favorite scholars is? Happened this year. A guy I met this year, Dennis Cockerham. You don't know him, but you should. He's a member of the Guaranteed Goals community, this exclusive online goal community I started, and he recently ran his first marathon. Here's the photo he posted, and the caption was unbelievable. This is Dennis, and here's what he said. I finished the marathon with the greatest ending ever. My 3 kids waited at the finish line and ran it with me. He said, I'm now part of the 0.1% of people worldwide that have finished a marathon. My heart is so full. Jon gets a ton of credit for pushing me to achieve my goals. Okay, I'm not crying. You're crying. That's amazing. But you know what one of the coolest things is? At the top of the photo, when we found the photo and Dennis posted it, there was a tag because he posted it inside the Guaranteed Goals community, and the tag said owning a business. Dennis's main goal was his side hustle. He was working on his small business, and that was the specific part of the community he talks in the most, but he also ran a marathon. Why did that happen? Because excellence is contagious. When you're excellent in one area of your life and you start stacking up hours, it spreads to other areas. That's what's amazing about excellence. It's contagious. So level 1, rookie. Level 2, student. Level 3, scholar. Level 4 is professional. 250 hours. An MBA typically takes 60 credit hours of classwork. So when I say that if you focus on a goal for 250 hours, you're a professional, I mean it. Forget about people asking you questions. Now they're asking you for advice. They've changed from what are you doing to, will you teach me how to do what you're doing? Like, will you show me? Would you show me how to do that? I mean, let's do the math a little bit. Let's just focus. If your workout sessions are 30 minutes a pop, you've worked out 500 times. Do you know what you can do to your body in 500 workouts? Good grief. You actively start turning the impossible into the possible when you hit this level. And the final level, the 5th level, is expert, 1,000 hours. Do you know what happens when you reach this level? You are in the best shape of your life. You make hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even millions. You write as many books as you want. You travel the world to work in exotic locations. If that's your thing, you are unstoppable. If you spend 1,000 hours working on your goals, you accomplish them at extremely high levels. So how do you make it easy and fun to accomplish these goals levels? I'll tell you at the end of tonight. We've created something that is going to blow your mind. I'm holding it in my hand right now. I can't wait for you to see it. But let me give you a heads up of what's going to happen in the next few minutes. So you'll get a free goal collecting resource. We love resources. I don't know about you. I love resources. I love tools. I use a lot of different tools to accomplish my goals. And you'll get one that'll give you a smarter, better list of goals to start your year with. Number 2, we're going to talk about a 3-step plan for maximum motivation. Do you ever feel like your motivation kind of dies out? Like it's hard to maintain it? Not just in January, but like in February, it kind of wanes, it slows down. Do you ever feel like you lose your passion for a goal, like the spark dies? You're going to love this technique. And the third thing is you'll get a limited time opportunity to join the most successful, encouraging goal community on the planet. Now, if you're like me and you don't like waiting, you can check out the community right now. Here's the URL. It's just jonacuff.com/goals. You can just pop open a new window or pause the video if you're watching the replay. So does that sound like a lot to cover? It does. It's a ton to cover. And there's also going to be a big prize at the end. I've got the prize right here. It's right off my camera. I'm going to bring it up piece by piece by piece. It's massive. The box it comes in is huge. Just wait. This event, though, is going to go by quickly. So I don't want to waste any more time. Let's jump into our first resource, what I call the 5 games list, or FGL. I am personally embarrassed that it took me this long to figure this one out. I've been a goal nerd for about 15 years now. I always kind of liked them, but I really started to nerd out about them about 15 years ago. But this simple technique eluded me. It's not complicated. I just missed it. Here it is in 3 words. Tomorrow starts today. Tomorrow starts today. What does that mean to you and I? It means that if you want to win next year, like if you want to really enjoy 2024, start working on it this year. Where does it say we have to wait until the new year to work on the new year? In our culture, we tend to deify January 1st. We act like it's a magical date, a special moment that marks the official start of New Year's resolution season. But here's what I know. If you spend 20 or 25 days working on your goals, because it's only December 5th, or maybe it's the 6th if you're watching this tomorrow, or the 7th or the 8th, if you spend 20 to 25 days working on your goals for the year before the rest of the world even starts, who do you think is going to do better on their goals? I mean, think about it this way. Do you remember the show Amazing Race? I used to call it Amazing Panic Attack because watching it gave me so much stress. Anybody else watch that? Like, let me know in the comments. I couldn't watch it. I could not watch it because it was essentially an hour-long program of people missing flights. That is my nightmare. And they were always like, you have 4 minutes to get to the airport and you have to fight an anaconda on the way. And there was like a couple just running. And the concept of the show was simple. So a couple who was probably going to get divorced as soon as the filming was over, like it was that stressful. I would love to see a follow-up to that show where Jeff Probst, I don't know, is it a silent B, a silent T, a silent S, where Jeff says, hey, 10 years of Amazing Race, here's the marriages that survived. It'd be like 2 couples. So they had to race against other couples around the world to see who was fastest. And the winning pair earned $1 million. Now imagine if you were on that show and the producer said to you, hey, we're going to give you a 20-day head start. We'll hold everyone else back. We're going to give you a 20-day head start. They won't get to start. The other competitors can't start for 3 weeks. Do you think it would be easy to win? Of course it would. The average Amazing Race takes 21 to 30 days to complete. If you got a 20-day head start, you would dominate. And we're not technically competing against other people. We're competing against last year's you. So the question is, in December of 2022, if you go back a year, did you start working on your goals the 1st or 2nd week of December? I bet you're like me. I didn't. Most people wait until the 1st week of January or the last week of December to plan their New Year's resolutions. And do you know why that's not helpful at all? Because they plan them when they're on vacation. Hear me out on this. So what happens is they sit with an entire day of free time. Maybe they've got the 27th off or the 22nd off, and they dream up some things that they want to do. But because they're on vacation, they've got vacation mind. They think they've got all the time in the world to work on their resolutions in the new year because this week they do. You're on vacation time. And then January hits and their real schedule, their real workload, their real commute, their real driving the kids between activities comes in like a wrecking ball, and it destroys all those vacation goals they came up with. We're not going out like that. So here's your first homework. I want you to start collecting goals today. Start today. Like, I want you and I to start collecting goals today, not tomorrow, not next week, not just in January, today. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to essentially say to yourself, hey, dear head and heart, please collect my goals. Like, please collect any goals you see in my life over the next few weeks. And then guess what they're going to do? They're going to. How do I know that's going to happen? Because you find the things you look for. You find the things you look for. You're giving yourself permission to start noticing resolutions. You're going to start collecting them. And you can do this in a few different ways. You can open up a note in your phone. You can title it 2024 goals. And then when you're out and about and something sparks an interest, you can write it down. You can use a physical notebook. I'm a big notebook guy. I love a notebook. Or you can also use the free resource we created called the 5 Games List, FGL. This is a really simple tool that'll help you collect and sort your goals based on the 5 most common games you play in life. Here's what the games are. Number 1, career. Number 2, financial. Number 3, relationships. Number 4, health. And number 5, fun. We emailed you a copy of that resource. Also, if you're a member of the Guaranteed Goals community, you can find it in the resources section on the site. There are more than 100 videos and resources in the GGC that'll help you absolutely crush all your goals in 2024. Here's the link again if you're curious. It's just jonacuff.com, that's me, /goals. So you collect a bunch of goals, and then on January 1st or 2nd or 3rd, you're going to open up that document and you're going to be thrilled at how far ahead you are. You won't be sitting down with a blank, intimidating piece of paper. Like, I don't know about you, a blank piece of paper is overwhelming to me. Instead, you'll have a collection of goals. You'll have raw materials to work with. I stumbled upon this whole idea one day while reviewing my gift list. I used to be terrible at giving gifts. Now, I wasn't as bad as the dad who waits until the last second and then buys a bunch of stuff at Walgreens on December 24th. Be honest, any other dads ever do that? Like, I get it. It happens. Or have you as a parent, let me know in the comments, have you ever gotten the gifts together? Say you've got 2 kids, 3 kids, and you put them all out the night before and you realize, oh, we clearly want, like, we love one kid. We kind of like the other 2. Like, has that ever happened to you where you go, oh, we got to balance this out a little bit. And then you go to Walgreens and you buy them like a sport ball. Like, it's not even a basketball. It just says sport ball. And you go, what sport is this for? And they go, all sports. And you're like, oh, they're going to know I bought this at Walgreens. I wasn't that bad, but I was close. And the reason why was simple. I waited until December to think about gifts. That's when I actually started to think about gifts. First or second week of December, I'd say, okay, brain, try to imagine some amazing gifts the people we love would like. And my poor brain would go, this is hard. I don't know. Doesn't Jenny like socks, right? Your wife Jenny likes socks. I know I've seen her wear socks. And I would go, dude, for real? Socks? That's the best you can come up with? We are doomed. And my brain would say, hey, oh, sorry, buddy. You kind of threw this on me last second. I've been focused on gross motor skills like driving. And it was a mess. Then one year, I tried something different. In November, when Jenny said she liked something in a small boutique we were in, I wrote that down on a note in my phone. I just wrote, Jenny, Thermopin meat thermometer. That's one of the actual gifts she wanted. We were in a fancy kitchen boutique. And she said, oh, I've always wanted a meat thermometer. I wrote that down on my phone. Weeks later, I bought it for her. I gave it to her on Christmas morning, and she was thrilled. That's the same technique you and I are going to use with our goals. Don't just give yourself an hour to brainstorm on December 31st. Give yourself weeks to think about your goals. Pay attention, write them down, collect them like clues to a treasure that you've maybe never found. That's one of the things that's fun about goals. Goals introduce you to you. They introduce you to you. You've got the 5 games list document that we created for you. I think you should use it for your goals. Now, if you want something else, if you have a different tool to use, awesome. I just want you to start collecting. Now, the first way to jumpstart 24, start collecting goals today. The second way you can jumpstart 24 is multiply your motivation. You've got to multiply your motivation. You see, I have some terrible news for you. I saved it until this moment. We're halfway through. We're like 25 minutes in. So I didn't want to lead with this. You should never lead with something negative. But I've got some terrible news. And here's the terrible news. You will lose your motivation in 2024. You will. I know. That's not fun to hear, but it's very, very true. You might not even make it to the second week of January with your motivation. I'd love to say that you'll be super hyped for your goals, like all the way until June, but then you'll hit the summer doldrums and you'll need to rally. But that's not what the research says at all. For instance, Strava, one of the largest fitness tracking apps in the world. I use it when I run. Studied 800 million athletic activities because they wanted to figure out, what day do people quit their goals? Can you guess what day people lose their motivation, run out of steam, and give up on their goals? The second Friday of January. The second Friday of January. It's true. Strava calls that day Quitter's Day. Most New Year's resolutions don't make it out of January. That's why I often say people don't make New Year's resolutions. They make January resolutions. And that's a very big difference. They don't make New Year's resolutions. They make January resolutions. February is like this elephant graveyard of resolutions. The biggest issue with motivation is that we're surprised we lose it. And here's how it usually happens. So you're moving along, like you're making some progress, you're inspired, you're headed toward your goal. And then one day, like out of nowhere, you wake up and the motivation is just gone. Like you check the motivation tank, like you're like, and it's empty. All your excitement for your goal has skedaddled. I love that word, by the way. I think I'm going to say it a lot more in 2024. Skedaddled. Fantastic world. The problem is that in that moment, we tend to think things like this. I must have picked the wrong goal. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever lost hope in the middle of a goal and thought to yourself, I must have picked the wrong goal. Like this would be easier if it was the right goal. Or we think I failed. Like my motivation is gone and it means I failed. Or we think something really destructive to our progress. We say to ourselves, if I pick a new goal, I'll feel motivated again. If I just have to find a new goal, a better goal, a different goal. I once heard an old school motivational guy named Jim Rohn. You guys have probably read some of his books before. He said that a lot of people are good at building the foundation for a house. So they dig deep, they pour the concrete, they lay the footers, but then they lose their motivation and they think, I should build a different house. I'd be motivated if I built a different house. So they just jump to another goal, build another foundation, and have the same thing happen. They look up 10 years later and they have a field of amazing foundations, but no roof over their heads. Any fellow goal jumpers here? Like this is a safe place for you to talk. Any fellow goal jumpers right now go, Jon is stepping on my toes. Anybody else here have half written books, half started businesses, half decluttered garages, or half started workout plans? Anyone right now have a piece of workout equipment like you haven't interacted with in like 3 months, maybe 6 months? Like you got a treadmill. It's like, hey, I can do more than just be a place for you to hang laundry. And you're like, whoa, easy treadmill. I don't need that mouth. I don't need that sass from you. I've done that. And the first way you and I are going to prevent that from happening is that we're going to remove this thing of surprise. That's how discouragement gets you. It surprises you. It shows up unannounced and unexpected, and it sucker punches you. So let's stop that from wrecking our goals by knowing what's going to happen. Like, let's be honest and upfront. Here's what you can be certain of. The middle of every goal is boring. It is. It's true. The middle is boring. You can also count on this. Motivation is flighty. Your motivation is flighty. It's going to abandon you. It gets really skittish, especially when work shows up. And finally, at some point, possibly soon, you will think this goal is dumb. This goal is dumb. It's not even that we'll lose our spark. At some point, we'll think, why? Why did I even do this? I've run a dozen half marathons, and every time I get to mile 11, it's always mile 11. I think to myself, why do people keep letting me sign up for these dumb things? I hate this. And then when I'm driving home with my medal and my buckets of endorphins, I think, I'm going to sign up for another one of these. Let's go. So your motivation is going to disappear during your goal unless ... you hold on to it. So how do you do that? There are 3 steps I want to talk about right now. 3 simple steps. Number 1, I want you to make a list of your motivations. Number 2, I want you to review it regularly. And number 3, I want you to add to it often. And this is as simple as it sounds. Before you start a goal, sit down and ask yourself one question. What motivates me? What motivates me? Like, just ask that question. Have you ever done that? Most people haven't. I'm talking about you, a coffee if you choose, and a piece of paper, and that one question. What motivates me? The only rule for this exercise is please be honest. Please be honest. False nobility won't get us out of the comfort zone. I see this happen with fellow authors all the time. When somebody's book is about to launch, authors will tell me, they'll say things like this to me. They'll say, Jon, if only one life is changed by my book, it was all worth it. If only one life, to which I say, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. That's not even a little true. Books are hard to write. The steps are simple, but the work is challenging. It takes 1,000 hours of wrestling with your ego, your expectations, and your fear that maybe at Angry Dragon Allen 287 on Twitter was right. You're dumb. You're dumb. Books are too hard to write to help just one person. If that's your goal, spend 30 minutes writing a friend an email instead. That's way easier. If you're going to go to all the trouble of writing a whole book, the win should be a lot bigger. You should want 100,000 people to buy it. You should want it to hit the New York Times bestsellers list. You should want it to make you money. You should want strangers to stop you in the street and go, you have no idea how much your work changed my life. You should want it to impact people around the world. I've experienced all of those things, and they're all really fun. Writers say, if only one life has changed, my book was worth it, because we're afraid it won't sell. And we're scared of looking selfish with our goal. And instead, we create fake desires that we think are socially acceptable and will shield us from future disappointment. But here's what you need to know. Fake desires will never trick you out of a real comfort zone. Fake desires will never trick you out of a real comfort zone. False fuel won't give you the drive you need to keep going. It's like putting diesel in a Ferrari and then wondering why it won't run. I did this exercise recently, and I came up with a list for myself. I ended up with 27 different forms of motivation. Here are 3 examples of what I wrote down. Number 1, positive audio content. Positive audio content. Do you know what I listen to when I drive to get my haircut? Do you know what I listen to when I go for a run? Do you know what I listen to when I work out with weights? Do you know what I listen to when I put away the laundry? Do you know what I listen to when I walk through the airport and I wait for a flight? Positive audio content. I listen to audiobooks, podcasts, speeches, and uplifting music. And I do that because in order to stay motivated, I don't starve my doubts. I drown them in positivity. I don't starve my doubts. I drown them in positivity. I am a very cynical person by nature. I'm negative by nature. I have a very pessimistic personality. Sometimes that surprises people. I mean, when Noah Kahan saying, I'm mean because I grew up in New England, I thought, maybe that's my issue, because I did grow up in Massachusetts. I'm not a glass is half full kind of guy. I'm more of a glass is probably full of scorpions, and someone is going to steal that glass unless we're careful. We're going to be taken advantage of. Like my wife, when we had young kids and we'd leave a stroller on the beach and go for a walk, I'd be like, we better lock up that stroller. And she'd go, if somebody steals that stroller, they just needed it more than us. And I'd say, no, if somebody steals that stroller, we got jacked. That's how that works. I'm a negative person. And yet I read incredibly positive books. I'm one of the most encouraging people you'll ever meet. My future is so bright, I got to wear shades. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm only trying to do one thing, amp you up. I can't believe I get to live this life. And I think tomorrow is going to be better than today. I love my 30s more than my 20s, my 40s more than my 30s. I can't wait for my 50s. So what happened? Well, I learned one powerful lesson in my mid-30s. Positivity has a better ROI than negativity. It's true. The return you get on positivity is so much bigger and brighter than negativity. So I spent years learning how to practice positivity. I spent years learning how I can practice positivity. One way I do that is by listening to positivity for hours and hours every week. If you're a naturally negative person like me, you should definitely check out the Guaranteed Goals community. I teach all the tips I've learned about staying positive in there. Here's the link, just jonacuff.com/goals. Now, I would say most people do the opposite of what I just described. Most people practice chaos, stress, negativity, and fear. Sometimes, for instance, people say to me, Jon, I feel negative. I feel stressed out. And I'll say, well, walk me through your day and tell me what your day is like. And they'll say, well, Jon, I start my day by looking through Twitter to see what those idiots who vote differently than me did last night. Like, what are these idiots up to? And then I'll listen to a political radio show on the way to work where people scream their opinion. At work, I'll try to just make it through the day with a few of my friends who hate their job too. Like, we've got a crew of people who just hate their job, and we talk about how much we hate it. On the way home, I'll listen to a podcast about an unsolved, incredibly brutal murder. Then I'll argue with strangers on Facebook, and then I'll fight for a while on Nextdoor, like with real neighbors. And then I'll end the day by watching a documentary on Netflix called People Who Look Like Me Getting Murdered. It's weird that I feel negative all the time, Jon, isn't it? And I'll think, it's not weird. You practiced stress all day long. You practice negativity all day long. I do the opposite. I stay motivated by practicing motivation all day long. The second way I stay motivated is with rewards and consequences. Two things, rewards and consequences. I didn't come up with these ideas. Scientists have discussed this for decades. People tend to either be motivated by earning a reward or avoiding a consequence. Another way to think about this is approach motivation, which is a reward, and an avoidance motivation, which is a consequence. So an approach motivation is, if I finish my goal, I approach a reward I want. And avoidance motivation is, if I finish my goal, I will avoid a negative consequence I don't want. If you've ever gotten something done, for instance, on a Thursday because you had a Friday deadline, you've experienced a consequence motivation. You didn't want to have a negative conversation with your boss or a client that you had made a promise to. So you worked hard to avoid that negative situation. That helped you finish. Here are two examples that really clarify this for me. If you have a doctor who knows you, like you have a family doctor that you actually have a relationship with, one of the first things they try to do is understand what motivates you. If your doctor wants you to lose weight and she knows you're reward motivated, she'll say, hey, if you get in shape, if you change some health habits, you'll be able to hike this summer with your spouse, and that will mean the world to him. Or, hey, if you get in shape, you'll be able to fit in all the rides at Six Flags with your son, and that will be amazing. Or if you get in shape, you'll sleep so much better. What she's doing is she's painting a picture of the reward you'll get if you do the work. If you do this work, here's what the reward looks like. Now, what if she knows you're consequence motivated? What if she knows you're not reward-based, you're consequence-based? She'll say the reverse. The doctor will say, hey, if you don't do the work, if you don't get in shape, you might develop the same health issues that your mom had. Or if you don't lower your cholesterol, you might develop serious problems. She paints a picture of the consequences you'll get if you don't do the work. A good financial planner does the exact same thing. If he knows you're reward motivated, he'll say, hey, if you get your retirement in order, you'll be able to buy a place on the coast of Florida. You can go to 30A and fish as much as you want. You can get a little boat, a Boston whaler, and fish. Or if you get your debt under control, you'll be able to pay off your house. He paints a picture of the reward you'll get if you do the work. If he knows you're consequence motivated, he'll do the opposite. He'll focus on the consequences. He'll say, if you don't get your money in order, your kids won't be able to go to college without massive debt. You'll have to work until you're approximately 118 years old to retire. He paints a picture of the consequences you'll get if you don't do the work. So your job is to figure out which form of motivation helps you the most in specific goals. Like, you just have to figure that out. Okay, is it rewards? Is it consequences? And they don't have to be massive. This year, I decided that when I finished running 400 miles, not all in a row, over the year, often in 1 mile chunks, that when I finished that, I got to buy a pair of running shoes. And they weren't that expensive. I could have purchased them the day I made the goal. I didn't have to wait until the 400 miles, but I needed that reward waiting for me on the finish line. I needed it to pull me towards it. The reward motivated me. And when I hit 400 miles, those shoes meant the world to me. Now, every time I put them on, I have a reminder that I can achieve challenging goals. Maybe you're the reverse. Maybe you're consequence motivated. What if you volunteered to send an extra update to your manager? What if you said, hey, I'm going to update the whole team every Friday on my progress, because what it means is by midweek, you better have some things in motion. Like, you're going to be motivated to action, because you don't want that email to be full of like, hey, how's everybody doing? Isn't the weather crazy? What? Michael Bublé? You get some extra accountability. For instance, I meet with a goal accountability buddy every 2 weeks. That keeps me motivated because I've made some promises to him that I want to be able to keep. Maybe you up the stakes. A friend of mine has a business coach, and this business coach knows he's consequence motivated. So he said to him, I want you to send me 3 signed checks for $100 each. And every time you miss one of your goals, I'm going to send the politician you hate the most some of your money. And you better believe that motivated my friend. And he would amp him up. He'd be like, he's going to do such terrible things with your money. Ugh. What you need to remember is that everyone is motivated by both forms depending on the goal. It's not an either or situation. So the running shoes motivated me to finish my 400-mile goal. But a positive reward isn't what motivates me to work hard at public speaking. Do you know what motivates me? The fear of bombing. My greatest fear is that I have an hour-long speech and I run out of content and I'm done in 10 minutes. And then it's just 50 minutes of me being like, hey, what do you guys think of queso? You guys heard my queso jokes from the internet? Ugh, brutal. So here's a question for you. Which form of motivation, reward or consequence, do you need to add to your goal? Which form? I think it's a great way to stay motivated all year long. The third form of motivation on my list is community. Community. Here's a simple truth I know about myself. I can't goal it alone. I can't goal it alone. See what I did there? Play on words. Nice. But it's true. Big goals take big communities. The one-man wolf pack is a lie. The stronger my community, the stronger my performance. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love being part of the Guaranteed Goals community. I can get motivated by an audiobook or a podcast. I already said those are one of the forms of motivation I like. I can get educated by a great YouTube clip. There's some amazing content, even on Instagram, on YouTube. I can get inspired by a speech. But do you know what content can never do? Content can't ask me an insightful question about my exact life. It can't. Content can't follow up with me. It can't follow up a week later, a month later, a day later. Content can't hold me accountable. It can't hold me accountable to the promises, to the commitments I've made. Content can't encourage me directly or personally. It can't. Content is a one-way street. It is. Community, on the other hand, goes both ways. Community goes both ways. I need my neighbor, Bill Bunton, to ask me questions about my goals. We met yesterday and talked about our goals. I need Jan Lemmy to hold me accountable on a goal I'd say I'd work on. I need hundreds of people cheering me on who saw my goals in January, encouraged me about them in May, and celebrated with me in December. Do you know what I'm doing this Thursday? Like, if you're watching this a week later, I've already done it. Sometimes I forget how time works when we're doing these live events. But do you know what I'm doing this Thursday with members of the GGC? We're having a year-end celebration. There's going to be hundreds of people on a massive Zoom talking about our victories from 2023. I don't know about you, but I don't have a ton of people I can celebrate wins with. And to have a group of people on my side is amazing. All the best books on my shelf, and I have some amazing books on my shelf, can't do that. Only community can. So it's on my list of things that motivate me. It's why I know that your goals will be more successful inside a community, like the Guaranteed Goals community. Again, jonacuff.com/goals. Those are 3 of my motivations. Those are 3 of my personal motivations. But I said that I wrote down a lot more than that. I mean, I have 27 right now. That's the first step. If you want a little help, we actually created an ebook. We wrote an ebook called 24 Fire Ways to Stay Motivated in 2024. So I've been out of the ebook game for a long time, But what happened with this 24 fire ways to stay motivated in 2024 is it started as a PDF. Like I got really deep into thinking about motivation because I kept seeing so many people's goals wrecked by not having motivation. So I started to write it, and it was just going to be a PDF, and I just kept getting more motivated by the content. I kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going. It's 25 pages long now, and we haven't done an ebook in a decade. You are going to love this thing. Anyone who signs up for the Guaranteed Goals community tonight gets a free copy sent to them on January 1st. It's going to be the perfect boost for your new year. This is jonacuff.com/goals. That's the URL. So super easy, jonacuff.com/goals. The second step that you think about with your motivation is you've got to review it regularly. You've got to review it. It's really important that you review it. After you write down your motivation list, don't put it in a drawer. Don't bury it deep in a notebook. Don't lose it inside your laptop. Make it your screensaver on your phone. Print it out. Put it on the fridge. I personally have 2 pieces of paper hung up on my wall. The first is my list of goals, and I'll teach you how to build one of those in the GGC. The second is my list of motivations. I lose motivation every day, and I have to remind myself of why I'm doing all this hard work. So I review my motivation list every morning as part of my routine. It takes about 60 to 90 seconds, but it pays massive dividends. I also have it in my phone in a Google Doc. So if I'm away from home, I still have access to it. Imagine this. The next time you're on a business trip and your flight gets delayed or even canceled, before you erupt in anger or frustration or roll around in self-pity, what if you just took out your motivation list and said, oh, that's right. This is why I'm on this trip. Oh, that's right. This is why I'm doing this hard work. When the going gets tough this year, and it always does, you'll be so glad you did this activity in December. The third step to do with your motivation list is add to it often. Add to it often. Where does it say you should only think about motivation in December or January? When you review your list, you'll find new ways to stay motivated. A motivation list is like a bunch of rabbits. When you get all those motivations together, they tend to multiply. Throughout the year, as you learn new ideas about yourself, find new friends who encourage you, or discover a song that fires you up, add it to the list. I have specific songs on my list. One of them that I've been using at the end of my workouts lately is Busy Child by the Crystal Method. Do you guys remember that song? It was like the late 90s. Like techno had like a long year where it was popular, and then it kind of fell back into the warehouses. Busy Child by the Crystal Method, so good. Great song for working out. Have fun with your list and get ready for some wild results. If you practice something all year, you will be amazing at it by the end of the year. That's just how life works. The third way to jumpstart your year is to write fail-proof resolutions. There's actually a process to resolutions. There are specific steps. I'm going to teach what they are in January. First week of January, we're doing a 3-day challenge called the Fail-Proof Resolutions Challenge. But if you don't want to wait until then, if you're like me and you're like, whoa, I got goals that I'm ready to start now, I don't want to wait, sign up for the Guaranteed Goals community. I'll send you the 2 videos that walk you through how to create fail-proof resolutions today. You can get started right this second. And as I said earlier, if you like videos, you're going to love the Guaranteed Goals community. There are more than 100 videos in it, and you get access to all of them. We have a ton of content. Everything from what it takes to build a winning mindset, because I wrote a book called Soundtracks, to what it takes to finish goals, because I wrote a book called Finish, to how do you crush the 3 biggest fears that always wreck goals. You're going to love the content library. Plus, there are events all year long. Not 1 event, not 2 events, not 3 events. There are 12 events. We're going to do 12 moments like this all year long. Do you know how it's hard to stay consistent on your goals, like over time? Yeah, we fixed that. We're going to knock out our goals together all year long. Now, I shared the 5 success levels at the beginning of this event, and I told you that I'd talk a little more about those. Now, I couldn't have told you this idea in my first book because I didn't know it was true then. But I've written 9 books at this point, and it wasn't by accident. It wasn't by magic. It wasn't because I'm special or really, honestly, particularly talented. I just spent hours on it, thousands of hours on it, and now I'm an expert. And if that feels impossible, if that feels overwhelming, I agree. That's why we don't start with the expert level. We work our way up there, and you can do that. So here's my promise. If you join the Guaranteed Goals community and you put in the work, here's what I promise you. You will get to rookie level in the first 7 days. You're going to get to rookie level in the first 7 days. You will get to student level in the first 30 days. First 30 days, you're hitting student level. And you will get to scholar level in the first 6 months. First 6 months, scholar level. Now, can you do it faster? Of course. I hope you do. Can you hit expert level? Definitely. But we're going to take it at a pace that sets you up for the greatest long-term success. And when you hit a level, you're going to track your progress with special badges we made. So William Warren is one of my favorite illustrators, and I commissioned him to design some badges for me to mark the progress. I wanted you to have something that you could see your progress. And I've wanted to do this for years and years and years, and finally we did it. So when you finish your first 10 minutes, you'll have the rookie badge. You'll get the rookie badge, and the rookie badge is 10 minutes. And I love these badges. And right before this started, my assistant Ashley brought over some of these. So we just mounted them. I'm going to keep them in my office as motivation. So this is the rookie badge. And I love the design. I've seen Hazel just said, I love me some badges. Me too, Hazel B. Me too. So first 10 minutes, you're getting that one. Once you've knocked out 10 hours, then you get the student badge. Ooh, the student badge. Look at this one. It's got a little backpack on it. I love this badge. 10 hours. So then when you get to 100 hours of progress, guess what you get? You get the scholar badge. Oh, this one's fun. Now you're a scholar. You put in 250 hours. Look at you go. Look at you professional badge. And someday when you've stacked up 1,000 hours of time invested in your goal, I can't wait to celebrate that with you when you're an expert at something you care about, at the goals you care about. This year is going to be so fun, and you're going to make more progress on your goals than you ever have before. So again, recap. Here's what you get as a member of the Guaranteed Goals community. Full access to the Acuff content library. And it is a rich, deep, full library. Full access to the GGC community. There's an amazing, thriving community with hundreds and hundreds of people just like you, talking with each other, sharing with each other, encouraging each other. You get group coaching with me. People ask me to do individual coaching all the time. Today, a guy named Dan was like, hey, I need you to individually coach me. I said, I don't do it. I do group coaching inside the GGC. 12 times a year, I get to do group coaching. There's going to be 4 live digital events. There's going to be 12 months of check-ins and accountability. There's going to be a time tracker tool, a progress poster, badges, and more. Plus, I'll send you a brand new copy of my brand new book. Here it is. All it takes to go. Anybody who signs up, get a copy of my new book. So our team added up the cost of all the stuff that's there. And I'm really hesitant about adding up costs because I'm like you. Have you ever seen somebody, like an author will launch a book and they'll be like, if you pre-order, you get $30,000 worth of bonuses. And you're like, no, you don't. No, dude, you don't. Like, it's not 30,000. You're not giving me a Camry. Stop it. You're giving me a digital resource you've never sold. So I'm always hesitant about that. I'm always hesitant to do a price. So I said to the team, hey, I want us to add up the cost, the real cost. Don't give me anything like some made up. I want a specific real number, because I don't like when people tell me $30,000. I think that's fake. So here's what they did. They added up the cost. If you bought everything separately, it's $12,086. $12,086. If you bought everything that's in the GGC separately, it would cost more than $12,000, which is nuts to me. So what's the price for the GGC? Is it $3,000? No. Is it $2,000? No. It's going to be $997. But I always say there's more. Like, I've always wanted to be like, but wait, there's more. We're going to give anyone who's watching this $100 off if they join before 12/31. So before the end of the year, it's $897. So $12,086. I love how specific it is. And it's $897 if you join before December 31st. The price will go up in January. So if you're kind of on the edge, don't miss that. It's jonacuff.com/goals. Here's what I know about you. Your goals are worth the investment. They are. Your future is worth the investment. You are worth the investment. And you're going to love the Guaranteed Goals community. There's 4 things that I think are really interesting about it. 1, it's an all-in-one goal achievement platform, all in one. So you don't have to go join a podcast course or an exercise course or a writing course or small business course. It's all in one. It applies to every goal. Number two, it's cost effective. It's a cost effective alternative to high-end coaching. So you get access to me. You get interaction with me. Like, I'll answer your questions all year long. It's also community-driven accountability and support. Have you ever purchased a course that sat in your email? Can we all just raise our hand? Can we all just admit that we've purchased products and educational things and we're like, I'm doing it this year? And like, you talked your husband into it, or you talked like your spouse into it, and you're like, no, seriously, this is the thing. Like, and you buy it, and then they email it to you, and it just sits in your email, just collecting dust, and you don't even want to see it. All our hands should be up. Part of the reason that happens is that without a community, they might as well just say, hey, here it is. Good luck. Here it is. Good. Like, you would never go to a college that did that. If you went to college and on the first day they said, hey, I'm your professor, here's your work, I'll see you in 6 months, you'd be like, this is a terrible college. There's no community, there's no interaction. And that's what I like about it, is that we have both of those things. If you're even the tiniest bit curious, and maybe you're like me, you're an adult who's like, what do you get for Christmas for an adult? Like, what do I get myself? Like, maybe you want to give it to yourself for Christmas. Like, give yourself the gift of done. A finished book, a finished half marathon, a finished business plan. Give yourself the gift of done. I also promised a prize today. I told you there was a big prize, right? Because we do prizes in everything we do. And here's the fun thing. We get to pick the prizes. So the prizes are often a lot of fun. It's like, you get Benton's Bacon, you get a Lego set. They're cool prizes. So this one is the Jon Acuff Library. Jon Acuff Library. What's in the Jon Acuff Library? Well, it's pretty massive. So you get a signed copy of my book, Stuff Christians Like. This is my first book. You get a signed copy of Quitter. This is another book I wrote. You get a signed copy of Start. You get a signed copy of Do Over. You get a signed, where's Finish? You get a signed copy of Finish. You get a signed copy of Soundtracks. You get a signed copy of All It Takes Is a Goal. You get a signed copy of your new playlist. You get a copy of the Finish audiobook. This is actually on CD. Like, this, can you imagine? Like, these still exist. Did you know these still exist? They do. They're out there. You also get Finish Post-it notes. These are very rare. This is the only place you can get these. We made some Finish Post-it notes. They say, today I will finish. You're going to get a stack of those. You also get a brand new massive Finish calendar. This is the Finish calendar. It doesn't even fit in the frame. It's that big. Super fun. This is my version I'm working on. You get my favorite notebook in the world, the Leuchtturm. I'm a dot grid guy. I hope you're a dot grid person too. And then the last thing, because it's fun, you get my favorite mini whiteboard. This is my mini whiteboard. It's another one of the tools that I use. It's fantastic. What I like about it, it's small enough that you can't overwhelm yourself. Like, sometimes if I have too much space, I put too many ideas and it feels overwhelming. That one's small and tiny. There's 13 items and one massive prize. We'll use a random number generator to pick the winner and email you if you won. All right. Now, I think we've got a few really awesome people that have joined us tonight. I'm going to check my phone to make sure they're on, because I said, hey, are these members here? Oh, okay. There are a lot of people that I want to introduce you to, but there's 4 specifically. So I'm going to look for them. First, I'm going to look for Brandon. Let me see if I can find Brandon on here. There's so many people. So I'll go see if I can you pull up Brandon, Jessica? Is Brandon available? Awesome. There he is. If you'll, hey. All right, let's unmute Brandon. Okay. Brandon, I'm going to do your bio because it's impressive. Okay. I can see you've probably just been running. Like, I'm assuming you've just been out for a run.
Oh, sure.
All right. So Brandon's bio, he's an author, pastor, keynote speaker based in Asheville. Love Asheville. Beautiful. He's got a passion for guiding others and discovering personal values, unique purpose through the art of storytelling. His debut book, Magic in the Mug, uncovers formative life lessons through the journey of a single cup of coffee. He also hosts This Awesome Life podcast, and his first book sold out. The first print of his book sold out. And this is crazy. I got a copy today. I got this in the mail today. Brandon's a member of the Guaranteed Goals community. Brandon, from your perspective, how did being part of the community encourage you to finish the things you care about?
Yeah, I think it's funny because one of the questions I get asked most of all about my book is how long it took me to write it. And I always tell people it took me way too long, because I spent like 3 years with this idea, just writing things for no purpose and no reason, eventually quit. And then I joined the GGC and I finished it in 6 months. And so it was just, I think that that's one of the things that really helped spark it. And there were just people there to push me forward and encourage me and tell me to keep going.
I love it, dude. I love it.
Yeah.
So finish it in 6 months. First run sells out. So then you print a second run. Was that the plan?
Yeah. So I wanted to get it done because I was moving. I moved from Omaha to Asheville. And so I was like, I got to get this thing done and printed. And so I printed a bunch of copies and invited some people to a book launch party. A bunch of people RSVP'd. And then I started asking, what does a book launch party even look like? Right. And so just threw this thing at a coffee shop and sold everything I had. So just recently got some more and started selling those as well. So
that's amazing. Okay, Brandon, before I let you go, where can people find your book? Because I love, like, the thing that's fun about the GGC is folks finish stuff and then they mail it to me. And that actually, I went to the post office today. I went to the UPS store. It was crazy town in there because it's a busy season. I opened it up and I was like, let's go, Brandon. Where can people find it?
The easiest place to find it is magicinthemug.com. There's still there's an option there to get a signed copy. And it's also available on Amazon as well.
Awesome. So magicinthemug.com. Brandon, you're killing it. I'm so honored that I got to watch your journey this year in the GGC. I can't wait to see what you do next, because I think this is the first of many. I always tell authors, like, this was the first book, not the last book. So I love that there's a next book in you. Brandon, thanks for joining us tonight, man.
Thanks so much. Awesome to be here.
All right. So next up is Stephanie Roy. I'm going to jump into her bio because it's impressive. She's a homeschooling mom, speaker, consultant, mentor with Momentum Learning Systems, a business she co-founded with her partner. She owns a martial arts school that focuses on personal growth and development. She's an avid player of Dungeons and Dragons. Love that. She's a proud Toastmaster, NASCAR, and New York Giants fan. I don't see those go together often. People go, I'm really into NASCAR, and often also the New York Giants. She's a lifelong learner. She launched a podcast and already published 95 episodes. Stephanie, you're killing it. When we asked for people who had accomplished a lot this year, your list was amazing. Congrats on everything you've done here. It's so fun to watch.
Thank you.
So I'm curious, what made you want to launch a podcast in the middle of so many other projects?
It was a chance to practice expressing my voice. So I actually did it as a 30-day challenge that someone else from another group that I'm a part of gave me. And it was really just like, I didn't even tell anybody about it for the first 7 days, but it was just an exercise in practicing sharing my voice. And you can do it with anything. You can do it with writing, posting to blogs. It doesn't really matter. But it was really just about developing my voice and who I am. Like you mentioned, I have multiple businesses with my partner, and I'm the integrator and he's the visionary. So I've kind of been like the wind beneath the wings person for a really long time. So it's getting to that point where I want to kind of figure out who I am. And I know that this year has been really pivotal for doing that. And that was the original motivation for the podcast. But now it's kind of found its way, and I'm refocusing it on entrepreneurial teaching and interviewing fellow entrepreneurial teachers and sharing content for that audience.
I love it. I love it. Well, you've been a huge encouragement to so many people inside the GGC. Again, when we went through and said, okay, let's talk about people's achievements, your name jumped to the top of the list. So thank you for doing the GGC with us this year. What would be one encouragement you'd have for somebody who might be going, I don't know if I'm ready to jump into a community? Like, what would be an encouragement you'd give them?
That is an excellent question. I know that for me, I have for years gone through a cycle of high motivation and diving into the chaos zone, like you talk about, and then completely burning out and being useless for a month. And as I was reflecting, especially on the GGC this year, knowing this was coming, I realized that I didn't have that cycle this year. And nothing really changed other than joining this group.
That's amazing.
And doing the check-ins with Gian, who's amazing, and just having just this consistent, non-overwhelming flow of motivation and support, just the right amount of content. The number of times I have said that line that you used where people are drowning in content and starved for community. It is so incredibly true. And the GGC hits just the right amount of balance to just keep you moving forwards without letting you get like caught up in your head of like, oh, I should be doing more. Like you strike that balance of give yourself grace, but keep moving forward somehow.
I love that. I love that. Stephanie, people have asked, and I want to give them an answer, and then I'll let you go. What's the name of your podcast? So folks tonight that are going to want to discover your podcast, what's the name?
Yeah, it's the Stephanie Ann podcast, and I can post a link in the chat. But I would love to have you guys listen.
Podcast. Awesome. Yeah. Well, you've crushed it. You're inspiring to me. I can't wait to see what you do next year. Thanks for jumping on with us, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I think we have 2 more, and then we're going to do some Q&A. I said earlier that like it'd be really fun to be able to talk to a bunch of folks and answer a couple questions. So the next up, can you pull up Dennis? All right. Dennis, I already talked about a little bit. He's the one that ran the marathon, started a business. He's a dad. He has more side hustles than I can count. As I mentioned earlier, he has had a really fun year. Dennis, I would love for you to tell us about your main thing plus some of your side hustles. Like maybe even the WASP side hustle. We could like give me some of that one.
Well, my secondary thing is beekeeping, and me and my family sell honey and sell some honey products. And then we got into doing wasp and hornet removals in the summer. So I spent, I think, every night of the summer from June 15th until almost October. I spent every night out removing hornets and wasps.
That's amazing. And did your business, do I have this right? It doubled, like you doubled what you were doing this year?
Yeah, I since joining the GGC, I doubled my customers, and I doubled my profit this year as well.
I love that. That is so fun to hear. And then how did the marathon happen? Like, were you thinking about a marathon? Did it sneak up on you? How'd that happen?
Just reading your books originally. I joined a local run group and met a great group of people. And the captain of the group pushed me, told me I could do it. People in the GGC told me I could do it. I wanted to do 1,000 miles this year. I did 1,200 miles. And
dude, it's only December 5th. Like, you're not done.
Yeah, I still got time to go. And I'm a parent, full time, doing a lot of different things. We just added a puppy to our house. Like, I have a lot going on. And it's like, I don't watch Netflix. I don't really mess around with TV because I'm just too busy trying to accomplish my goals and to show my kids. The main thing with the marathon was to show my kids, if you put in the hard work and you do it, and when you say you're going to do it, and you tell people you're going to do it, then you got to do it. And I did it for them, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing, and I couldn't have done it without the GGC, honestly.
Oh man, I love that. It's so fun to watch your progress. And again, I love how varied the things you're pursuing are. Like, there's not a lot of people. I know a lot of people who run and they'll go, I'm a runner, but very rarely does the Venn diagram of honey and wasp removal and running overlap. So I love that you're pursuing so many different things with such excellence. I can't wait to see what you do next.
And one of the things was I only started running in May of 2022. So I wasn't really athletic my whole life. And I just one foot in front of the other. I started with 10,000 steps, just walking. Like, you don't have to run a marathon. Just get out there and move. And it definitely helps you with your anxiety like things you're going through. Anything. Running is so good for you, or even just walking, just being in nature or being out there. And you're never going to regret a run or a walk when you're done. You're always going to feel great after you're done.
Oh man. So Dennis, thank you so much for joining us. Super proud of you, dude. Can't wait to see what you do next, man. Thanks, buddy.
It's been an absolute honor. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dennis. All right. Last one. And this is Betsy Hodges. So her bio is wild to me because it contains this. She does a million things, but it also has the sentence, she was the 47th mayor of Minneapolis. Like, that is amazing. Like, Betsy, you've done a bunch of stuff, but I think what's fun about the GGC is you don't know who you're going to meet, but you know they have really interesting backgrounds. They're really encouraging. They might have been the mayor of a small town in Minnesota called Minneapolis. So she has her own business. She's a speaker. She's a writer. She advises on so many different important issues. She's a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. She went to 2 shows, including 2 in Italy. And I actually have, Betsy, I have your goals from the year. Like, I printed this out. when I say you have a long list, it's because I'm holding the list in my hand and there's so many different cool things you've done. What would you say is a goal you're proud of achieving this year?
I think is my capacity to meet goals. One of the reasons I was drawn to the GGC is because I was struggling. It was getting harder for me to do the things I told myself I would do. I am a very goal-oriented person. I am used to getting things done that I have chosen to get done. And I was struggling. And I found your voice on Twitter. And so I showed up at a thing, and then I read the books and I listened to the podcast. And when I heard that the GGC was a possibility, I was like, ding, 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 ding. And I just jumped in. And it really, for folks who are thinking, oh, it's got to be all these high, all this high powered stuff. Yeah, I walked in thinking, it's hard for me to get stuff done right now. And the GGC met me where I was at. You meet us where we're at, and we meet each other where we're at. And so that long list of things that I accomplished this year was because some beats none. Yep. That has been very valuable to me. It was like, Betsy, you got to start from where you're at, not from where you wish you were. You got to start from where you're at and then grow from there. And along the way, really, I found out I had a health problem that was impacting my energy and my capacity. And I found a way to deal with that, which just helped me zoom on forward. But I'm not sure I would have persisted if I didn't have the support of the community. I have to be honest. But I got a lot done this year. Thank you.
I'm so encouraged to hear that. And last question, one of the things I really love about your list is that the fun category is pretty full. I really love that. So I want you to talk just for a second about the Bruce Springsteen. Let's just pull that out. Like you love his music, you love his storytelling, how he performs, and you said, okay, I'm not going to casually love it. I'm going to incorporate it with my goals, because in my mind, a goal isn't just something you have to do. It's often something you get to do. So give us a little insight into the Bruce Springsteen experience for you.
I choose a word of the year every year. And the year that I chose the word fun, I created this year I had a 23 fun things to do in 2023 list, because the lesson I learned from that was that the more and my definition of fun is not anybody else's, the more I focused on fun, the more I could get done everywhere else in my life, because I had all this stuff to look forward to and all this energy. And so when Bruce said he was going on tour, when I was in elected office, I did not have the capacity to go to concerts, to follow him around the world or anything. When I found out in 2023 he was going to be on tour, I busted myself hard to make sure I got tickets. So I went to 4 shows this year. I have 3 shows next year because they were rescheduled. Right. 2 of those shows were in Italy. I bought the tickets a year ahead of time, and I had no idea how I was going to do it. My husband was like, why do we have tickets to these shows in Italy? I said, because we're going to Italy.
We're going to Italy.
And we did. We went to Rome and Ferrara. It was amazing, just like people say, and the energy that I got from just doing the things I love. And so I had so much fun this year, which means it surprised me to learn that if I have a ton of fun, I also get a ton more done in the rest of my life. So Bruce Springsteen sits right here in my heart.
So great.
He's meant the world to me. And if folks are interested, there's the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music housed at Monmouth University in New Jersey. And I, this year, got invited to be on the board of advisors.
Amazing. Amazing. You are such a fun inspiration to me. It's so good to finally put a video and a face and a conversation with a name, because I've seen you a bunch in the chats when we do our kind of group coaching. So it's really fun to go, oh, now I really know her. Like I know she has cool glasses and lists on the wall. And like, that's what's so fun about Zoom. And we're going to do these sessions in Zoom next year. I realized last year we did them in what did we do? Like crowd control creative or something. I forget what it's called. Crowdcast maybe it was called, but we're going to do them in Zoom. So I think we're just getting started. Betsy, thank you for joining me tonight and give me a little bit of your time. I really appreciate it. I think there's a lot of people inspired. I'm seeing people quote, when I have fun, I get more done. That's a true Betsy statement. That's 100% Betsy. Thanks for joining us tonight, Betsy. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thanks to the GGC for my great year.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, guys, we've got a couple more minutes. I know people probably have to drop out. It's December. People are busy, but I want to answer some questions. If there's any questions, let's do it like this. Let's try to get through as many as we can. We'll do these rapid fire lightning round. So if you have a question, just raise your hand, use the little Zoom feature. Jessica, who's running kind of the behind the scenes, will open it up. You'll ask the question and then I'll jump in with an answer and we'll go from there. We'll see how many we can get through. So Jessica, if you want to bring on the next person, we'll knock that out. Okay, maybe Jennifer or Latasha or Mary or Mary Alice. All right. Perfect. I think Latasha, you're unmuted. Awesome.
Yes, I think I probably missed this, but wanted to know, first of all, I really enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for hosting. And I learned about you through my pivot shift call with James Shaw. So
he's the best. James Shaw is the best. I got his Christmas card today. That was the other mail I got.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So I think I missed this, but you were talking about an ebook. Wanted to know how I can go about purchasing it or getting that.
Yeah, so right now we're doing it as a free giveaway for anybody who joins the GGC. So we might sell it individually down the road, but with my publishing deal right now, I just have to be smart about ebooks kind of in the middle of the publishing deal. So I can put ebooks inside the GGC and the publisher's like, that's cool. But I'm trying to be careful about not having like ebooks for sale on Amazon or other places because I don't want it to cause some disruption in our other publishing plan. But yeah, anybody who signs up for the GGC will get an automatic copy of that. And the goal with the GGC, as Betsy mentioned, as Stephanie mentioned, is to create the right amount of content in the right amount of way. So we're always adding new things. And part of what's fun about it is as the community says, hey, John, we keep seeing this thing happen. Like procrastination is really, then we get to kind of workshop that together. And I'll often release a resource dedicated to that so that the community can kind of shape and steer some of that. But great question. All right. Who wants to ask a question next?
We've got Mary. I'll unmute her.
Mary, let's go. All right, Mary, you ready? I see a hand. Okay, I don't think.
All right, we'll go to the next one.
All right.
Got Mary Alice.
Mary Alice, let's go, Mary Alice.
Hey, John, thank you. Thank you for the content today. I agree with everybody that's been in the chat, etc., that it's great. But you invited our questions on your Christmas Carol list.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
So the one that's missing is the one I sang to my son on the 24th of December and 25th of December, because he had just been born, late that night, and it was Silent Night.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. That's a good call. I think I can think of a few that I could have dropped for Silent Night. So I love that you're like, by the way, one of the greatest of all time. In my mind, that's probably a top 10. I think no offense to anybody who loves Josh Groban, I think I could bump Josh Groban, the Believe song. It's not my favorite song. So I could bump that off. But Mary Alice, good call. Yeah, if you want to comment on the Christmas carols list, suggest a song that I might have left off, by all means. So what's fun is in the GGC, we do 12 of these a year where they're an hour to 90 minutes long and they're questions. And sometimes the questions are, do you like this book title? And I go, hey, I don't think that book title is going to sell because here's what's happening. Or, hey, John, I'm trying to do this small business idea. What do you think? I try to give as many answers on topics I understand and know and can shave years off your experience. If I can tell you like that book title won't sell and it took me 5 years to learn that and it saves you the 5 years, I love that. So Jennifer, you're next. Jennifer Mulford, I think you're next on the list. I'll say ask to unmute. There we go.
Hi, how you doing, John?
I'm great. How are you, Jennifer?
I'm doing fantastic. So quick, I got introduced. I mean, you introduced yourself in my life via Do Over.
Awesome.
You are my book mentor for, I got your 3 books. And I'm very happy. Like I'm telling you, you've changed my life.
Appreciate
or at
that.
least the career and how I've set my goals. I've in the All It Takes to Go, it's a goal group, and they've helped me during last year, which I have to send an update of the list I sent. I sent 3 pages of my goals on January 2023 as an anonymous person, but I'm planning to just send an update on January 2024 once, it's all over. My question for you would be, is there any other books on after All It Takes is a Goal? And can you be more sarcastic and more dad jokes? Like we need those for sure.
It's so funny you say that. So yeah, I'll have another book coming out in the fall. It's a teen version of All It Takes is a Goal. The next book I'm writing right now, I believe it's going to be about bravery and anxiety. So I'm a tremendously anxious person by nature. Like I like to say I have the fears of 10 men. I've just channeled it in a way where it actually works for me, not against me. So the reason I've been able to write 9 books is because I figured out, wow, creativity is a better use of my anxiety than stress is. Like, what if I could take all that anxiety and use it as creativity? Can I practice bravery? So the next book in probably, I think it'll be in 2 years, will be about bravery, about anxiety. I'm really looking forward to that one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then the sarcasm, I appreciate you saying that. I've found recently that if I'm not careful, I get too serious and I get too stilted and I start to try to feel like I need to be a serious author. And then folks like you are so encouraging to help me go, hey, no, we like the humor. Like we don't get that everywhere. We like the silliness. We like and you can see that's part of why I'm trying to do the Christmas thing. Like I'm trying to break out of the serious mode. I found myself in the last 6 months, and Jenny, my wife, really called me on it. She's like, oh, you're in serious author mode. Like what? Like you love to laugh. Like you're very silly at home. And then you get online and you're like, hello, fellow gold traveler. And I don't want to be that. So I think inside the GGC, inside social media, you'll see a lot more of that. Nathan, you're up next, dude. What do you got?
Hey, John, thanks for doing this.
I appreciate it, man.
Big fan of your books. I was wondering if there is any kind of, because it is a big investment, is there any kind of risk reversal for the offer, the GCC, or are you pretty confident? Yeah. Like
so there's,
like
I would just tell you, Nathan, we're super chill on refunding money. Like part of the reason, so in my space, people tend to sell things at $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. And I've had guys like in masterminds go, you're underpricing stuff. But my big heart is I don't want to sell something unless I'm confident you can 10x the growth in your life. So if I sell something at $800, $900, I want you to feel like you got 10x return of it. That like you have a Betsy, you have a Stephanie going, it was worth it. So what I'd say to that question specifically is we're really chill on refunding money. Like my goal isn't that I get like, that's part of the reason it's a whole year program. It's not a buy the thing and then we disappear. Like it's a, hey, it's February, here's a check-in with Gian. Hey, it's March, here's a check-in with John. So if you're worried about like, I'm going to buy this thing and then John's going to disappear into the night with it's not going to be like that at all. So we're really chill with that. So if that was your question, hopefully that answers it. But yeah, we try to do our best with, if somebody gets into a financial crisis and there's something that goes on, we try to be really chill with that. All right, Michelle, you're up next. Let's go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. I'm a huge fan, and thank you for your humor. It's awesome. My question is there a payment plan available for this?
We're discussing it right now. We've tried it in the past and it felt a little clunky to us, but we've had a number of people. I've seen a bunch of the comments from people asking for that. So I wouldn't say that right now it's impossible for us to do that, but I'll tell you that we'll make sure we update the team. So if we decide to do that and we feel like there's a big enough need there, we'll figure that out. We'll send out an email. We'll be super clear about that. But part of the reason we do stuff like this is to get feedback like that. So if that's something that you're like, hey, that would be really helpful to me, we'll definitely add that to the mix and talk about it. And then as a team, we'll send out an email. It's like, hey, here's what we're planning.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. All right. Christian Arnold.
Hello there.
Hey, what's going on, Christian?
Hey, not much. I just wanted to, this is an amazing thing you got going on here. Loved your books. I've read your new playlist so far. Actually, I read it 4 times, to be honest. It is really good.
Are you
My mom's
related
been
to Marnie? Are you Marnie's son?
Marnie Arnold. Yep.
Let's go, dude. Let's go. All right. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too, Mr. John. So I heard you talking about listening to positive music, and I've been kind of struggling with this. Like, what is your mindset for finding positive music to listen to throughout the day? I found these different bands that'll like kind of disguise themselves as positive, but really the root message is quite negative. I want to know, like, how do you find positive music?
That's a great question. And I saw him last time we did a book tour. He was in Charlotte. He and his mom came. Love the Arnolds. So it's always fun to see folks that I actually know. For me, it comes a couple different ways. Sometimes it's friends' recommendations. So a friend will go, hey, this is a really encouraging song. I often find that if I find one encouraging song, it kind of leads me to other encouraging songs. So for me, the way I do runs, like say when I'm working out, because that's a lot of times when I'm listening to encouraging music, I start with kind of an audiobook. So my brain is kind of completely fresh. And then as the run goes on, then I move into music. So I guess for me, I need uplifting lyrical content. I don't have to know the person's life to enjoy their music, but I can often tell like, wow, they seem like they're sad and they're inviting me to sad. Like it's not to say I don't listen to some mopey music sometimes. My wife teases me all the time because I love the Counting Crows. And we went to a Counting Crows concert and she was like, oh, and I was like, yes, a 15-minute version around here. Like I love Adam Duritz. And he sings very few happy songs. So it's not that I'm against that, but I just find that the thoughts I have are often influenced by the music I listen to. So I try to be deliberate with that. So my encouragement there, man, would be like, you can often go top 10 most encouraging songs or 50 songs that'll make your day. And the challenge for an encouraging song is to do it well with authenticity and not make it cheesy. Like you want it to be honest and uplifting, but not get into like, if this is cheesy, this is saccharine, this is sugary. So I love that question. All right, Lisa, you're up next.
Am I on?
You're on. I can hear you. Perfect.
Fabulous. Hey, John, it's been great listening to you, of course. I saw Nate Bargatze's show a few weeks ago here in Erie, PA, and then sure enough, within a few days, you mentioned him in one of your emails as far as the comedy and how much, how much we all appreciate the comedy in you. And that's what makes everything so great. I've been a trainer for years, a professional development trainer, and I've been reading your stuff and utilizing your stuff. And I actually have a question for you about along with these topics, what about the procrastinators in the room? Because procrastination really, you try all these great things you talk about and you just go, but I'm a procrastinator first. I have to break that.
Great question. So I often find that if I'm procrastinating, I have to say why. And often I'm procrastinating because I've made the thing intimidating. So I just did a lesson. The way that GGC is going to work this year is I'm going to give lessons every 10 hours as people work toward 100 hours. So it's going to be very kind of, again, not overwhelming content. It's going to march people toward the progress. And I just did a lesson today where I told this story. I read in a book the other day, And this guy said, this US president sent thousands of thank you notes. He wrote thousands of thank you notes. And I thought, I want to do that too. And I immediately wrote a thank you note, put it in the mailbox, and I did what hustlers do, which is go, this is going to be easy. This is like, I was full of optimism. I had what I call hustler's math. And hustler's math is when your metrics are divorced from reality. So I had written one thank you note and I said, I'm going to write 10 a day every day next year. And so I wrote one to, I think I can write 3,650. That's terrible hustler's math. So often I procrastinate because I made the goal too big out of optimism. So one thing that helps me with procrastination is shrinking what I'm trying to do and giving myself a chance to get a little bit of momentum. I did this just yesterday with my goal buddy, Bill. So Bill, who I meet with every 2 weeks about goals, said, John, one of my goals is to spend 20% of my week on new business development. He works 50 hours a week, wants to spend 20% on new business development. And I said, that's too big. You're going to go from 0 hours to 10 hours a week. There's no way you'll do that. You're going to avoid it. You're going to procrastinate. I said, what if you just said 2 hours a week for 4 weeks in a row? Do an 8-hour test, do a little bit of experiment. So for me, one of the things that's helped with my procrastination is to have small experiments that allow me to build up momentum over time versus going, I'm going to go. It's kind of like, I want the mental picture you have. Think of like every dad in their mid 40s who has blown out a hamstring or an ACL because they tried to do a 40-yard dash sprint at Thanksgiving against a young nephew. Like every single dude I know that's wearing a cast, I go, what happened? They go, flag football. I was trying to catch somebody. You go, this didn't matter. You weren't saving an orphan from like a car crash. I want you to think of that. We do that same thing with our goals when we try to go from 0 to 1,000 or 0 to write a whole book. And I think that increases procrastination. All right, we've got time for like 2 or 3 more. Mandy, let's go. What do you got?
Hey, thanks for being willing to take our questions. My very first introduction to you was at Orange Conference when you brought all the animals up on stage. So you got beat on by the turtle. It was epic. It was epic. Great first introduction. So one of the things that you said is start collecting goals today and just kind of making a list. How in the beginning, when you started doing that, did you not overwhelm yourself with like all the possible things that would be out there? And like for me, that feels like failure because I'm like, well, I can't possibly do all of these. So how do I start like small and then motivate myself to go after all those things?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I always know, like, one of my soundtracks is my imagination is bigger than my calendar. So I say that to me all the time, like my imagination is bigger than my calendar. I will never be able to accomplish everything I desire because my brain, my heart are so much bigger, even than this calendar, which is big. The calendar's been the same shape for 700 years. There haven't been new days added. This calendar has no chance keeping up with me. And so I reframe it. So right now you're going, I have too many goals. I'll never get them done. That makes me sad. That makes me frustrated. Something must be wrong. I instead say we're too many people. Like in the GGC, we're too many people. We have too many goals. Embrace it. That's just a sign you're alive. Like, I don't understand people who don't have goals. When I say to somebody like, hey, what are you working on? What are you excited about? And they go, nothing, just kind of gonna slowly into the grave. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't like, what? We got to do it. Like, I can be annoying sometimes to neighbors at the pool because I go into like amp them up mode. My wife is like, hey, that guy doesn't want to read books. That guy doesn't. He's going to eventually have a slow, sad divorce in 10 years because he's not like, they don't want your fuel right now. We're at the neighborhood pool. And so I have to calm down. So for me, I say my imagination is bigger than my calendar. The other thing is that I know I'm going to edit. So the other way the calendar will help you is that your calendar will help you edit what you can get done. And so you turn it away from like, it's a prison, I can't do everything, into it actually is a friend that helps me filter. And I don't have, enough time to do all these things. And it's not failure, it's that I'm full of desire, and that's actually a good thing. All right, we'll do 3 more. Ashley, you want to jump on and ask a question?
Hey, yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I actually had a question. As a parent, how do you integrate these goal setting ideas and like positivity into your children to train them up to be individuals that think positively and also like know they can achieve their goals?
Perfect question. I love that question. I've got my parenting background. I've got an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. So I feel like I'm about to enter a new season. It's always a new season when it comes to kids. So there's a couple things Jenny and I do, and I think we're going to do a parenting event in the fall. So we've been having a lot of people, something similar to this. We're going to do 4 events this year, like 4 kind of 90-minute events that are included as part of the GGC. And I think one of them is going to be around this topic because I have a lot of parents asking similar questions. So there's a couple things we do. One, we make it part of our conversation. So we talk about goals a lot as a family at the dinner table, when we're out and about. It's not something that we only talk about once. It's part of our regular conversation. I mentioned that in soundtracks. One of the soundtracks that a guy named James Victori taught me was everything's always working out for me. And so if I get a parking spot, I'll say that to my kids. I'll be like, look at this parking spot we got. You know why? And they'll go, oh, Dad. I'll go, everything's always working out for me. So we talk about it a lot. The second thing I do is I try to fit it to their personality, not mine. That's a really hard thing as a parent. It's a really hard thing as a parent to try to get them excited in the way you're excited. And as a parent, you start to recognize, no, if I push that way, that might encourage me, but it actually shuts her down. That's not her value system. That's not what's excited to her. So I try to really understand what motivates them and how can I tailor what I'm doing to how they like to think. And I can relate it to them and we can have a conversation about it. So that's the second thing. The third thing I do is I ask a lot of questions. And sometimes the answer is fine, nothing, nobody, everything's okay. But I try to stay engaged in a question asking mode where I'm the one creating the conversation. I'm the one pursuing. I'm the, as a parent, I'm the one carrying the weight. And then the fourth thing I would say is that I try to give them time. A big principle for me is I had a friend, for instance, and he was like, man, my son, my 16-year-old is just not disciplined. He's not persistent. He's not, he doesn't have his life together. And I said, okay, when do you feel like you got your life together? Like, what was the age where you really came into your own? He was like, about 32, when I was 32. And I said, no offense. Like, maybe your good parenting has shaved off a year or 2 years of his process. But why would you expect what took you 32 years to happen for him at year 16? So I think sometimes as parents, one of the hardest things is you have to be open-handed. And it's so hard to watch somebody you love make life harder than it needs to be. And that could be extended family. Like we all, I see head shaking right now. People are like, oh, he's talking about my brother-in-law. Like, it's hard, but you can't force somebody to change. So I think as a parent, you make an environment where it's easy for them to want to grow, where it's easy for them to want to change, where it's easy for them to want to get curious about things. But you can't force that. And you have to be pretty open-handed with that, which is a challenge, but I think pays off in the long run. Okay, we'll do two last questions. Dina and Meg. Okay, Dina, you're up next.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you perfectly.
Awesome. I am very, very community driven and oriented, and I have very, very little time for that. So in GGC, what do you anticipate would be the kind of time that I would need to dedicate both to, get inspiration from myself and to give back something to the group? Sure.
Love that question. So here's what I would say. I would say we initially last year had a ton of content. Like it was, I get into fire hose mode if I'm not careful, where somebody goes, hey, I need an idea. And I go, what about 1,100 ideas? And they're like, it's too many ideas. So the content plan for this year is I'm going to try to get out of the way as you make progress. So for instance, from like 1 hour to 100 hours, I encourage you to watch a 10-minute, 12-minute video every 10 hours. So we're calling those laps. You do a lap of 10 hours. We've got a chart. We're geeking out in every goal way possible. So then you hit the 100 level. You get to, where's my 100 sign? Because I love these signs so much. You get to scholar. And then the videos come every 50 hours because I want to back out of the way and let you do the thing more often. It's kind of like when you go to the gym the first time, there's a lot of conversation. There's not a whole lot of activity because they need to tell you, here's how you won't get hurt. Here's how to use the equipment. Here's how this machine is. But you shouldn't be talking to your trainer the same amount 100 hours in, 250 hours in. So we're really going to try to stagger the content. Now, that said, there's 100 videos. So there's course on, like, if you want to deep dive and nerd out, there's a ton of content. As far as the community goes, I just encourage people to use the community to give encouragement and get encouragement. So some people would tell you, you know what, I was super consistent in January, and then I started popping in once a month to give updates. Other people would say, I went through a difficult season in my goal and I needed more community interaction, and I knew that I could find it there. But there's not a mandatory by any means. You can't, like, as a community person, you know how it is. You can't fail community. Like, you just have to give where you can and get encouraged where you can. So that's how, but it's pretty balanced. There's nobody in there. There's no community police. Nobody would ever say, like, man, Dina hasn't posted in 11 days. Is she even part of this? Like, it's not like that at all. It's way more open than that. It's way more, you get what you need to get in the moment. You give what you can give in the moment. And I think most people go through seasons where there's, more interaction than others. And that's not failure by any means. That was a fantastic question. Meg, a lot of pressure. Last question of the night. I hope you're like, this is the Eminem moment. Like, this is the mic drop. This question better be, I'm just kidding. It doesn't have to be phenomenal. I know now you feel like that's a little overwhelming. So Meg, how can I help you?
Okay. I wanted to know what your favorite podcast and book were of 2023, but not yours, clearly.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Great question. My favorite podcast that I really liked was Benjamin Hardy with Ed Milet. So Ed Milet has a podcast. He interviewed Benjamin Hardy, who's a PhD. He wrote a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And Benjamin, I did an event with Benjamin once, he's one of these dudes like Ryan Holiday, or like, yeah, those are two dudes that I'm like, they're annoyingly smart. They have like wisdom of like vampires, like they're 200 years old and they're like 33. And I'm like, oh, they're so young and so smart. So that would be the podcast episode. I would say I'll have the top 5 books of 2023 for me in December, but I left one off. I realized I left one off. So I'll tell you the one I left off, because you can read the other ones on my newsletter. I read Psycho Cybernetics this year, which is like, I think I'm late to that. It sold 30 million copies. And that book, from a mindset perspective, was really fast, from the 60s. There's definitely some stuff in there where I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that, but I don't ever agree with everything a book says. I don't try to go 100 for 100. But it was written by a plastic surgeon who noticed that some people, even when they had plastic surgery done, it didn't change their personalities. It didn't change their outlook, and their whole physical nature could change, but their heart didn't. And he started to really go, why don't people change? What is mindset when it comes to life change? And it's really thick and has a ton of ideas in it. And so that's the one I highlighted and underlined the most, is Psycho Cybernetics. And it's one that I could see giving out. Now, what I would say, it's not a book I'd give to everybody. Like, you know how there's people like where you go like, oh no, this wouldn't go well for me. Like, you would have too many questions, or like you would go, oh, what is this? Like, I would say that's part of what I like about the GGC, is it's a place where you can give the book to everybody. Where like things like this, like, you'll probably never see me post about this book on Twitter or Instagram, because it's just not the right spot for it. But in the GGC, in a conversation like this, where if you've spent an hour and 41 minutes talking and listening about goals, like, you're in, like, you like goals. Like, you're not gonna be like, I don't know, mindset, I don't think it matters. I really don't, John. I think it's like, for me, that's a book that I'd share with the right people, but I wouldn't share with everybody, which is probably why I left it off my email list. Because I was like, 90,000 people, somebody's going to be like, dear horrible John. And I'm like, I don't need that. I'll tell Meg about it, and I'll tell Betsy and Dennis and other people, but like, I'm going to pump the brakes. So great question. All right, guys, this was awesome. Thanks for letting me go over. I love doing this. Obviously, this is super fun to me. Betsy, Dennis, Stephanie, you guys were amazing. Brandon, thanks for joining me. Great job, Jessica. Great job, team. Can't wait to see all of y'all folks inside the GGC. Remember, it's $8.97, jonacuff.com/goals. It's going to be an awesome year. And I can't wait to see you guys. Like, we're going to send out mail. You're going to actually get mail. There's going to be like mail around these. So like you're going to get real stuff. It's smaller than this. We blew them up for the screen, but I can't wait in 2024 to see a picture of you going, like knowing you did the thing. Like, I think that's going to be really fun. Like I'm already knowing, okay, Betsy's going to have one of these like May. Like that's my prediction. Like May is what I'm giving it. So guys, awesome night tonight. Thank you for making time for it. Even in the middle of December, we'll email you guys with the winner of the giveaway. So